Frankly, I'm not sure that there's a way to get around the hurdle of your comp plan prohibition of not directing high-intensity residential uses into the coastal high hazard area. I'm not saying there's not one. This is just an issue that I was looking at the end of last week and a little bit yesterday. It's objective 13 in the comp plan that was adopted in 2005. If we can get around that prohibition, then what I would recommend would be to go to the court with this particular, and I've had this discussion with them, with some of the owner representatives that were in the meeting, take this non-conforming use to the court, and if the court issues a declaration that gives the county a green light on the Burt Harris potential claims, the regulatory taking claims, and these waivers of liability that I understand have been prepared, if a court signs off on it, then I will feel more comfortable coming back to this board with a recommendation for approval. But with just an R5, let's create a non-conforming use, and here are our waivers of liability. I don't think those waivers are going to be enforceable in the future, and I think it subjects this county potentially to a great deal of litigation risk.
Follow-up. So there is a process available to work through this.
I think if we can get around this coastal high hazard prohibition, right now there is a clear prohibition in your comp plan that says, and this was adopted in 2005 when you did your, what's called the EAR update, I think we went through in 2005, Alan, that the current comp plan prohibits the direction of high intensity residential use into the coastal high hazard area. And that, I believe, is the subject property is located within the coastal high hazard zone, and you're talking 37 units. I mean, assuming this change is made, you're talking 37 residential units on 1.8 acres of land, 1.7 acres of land. We don't have a zoning category that comes close to that. In fact, your comp plan has a provision that says that this high intensity residential use will only be allowed in your urban service area. We only have one urban service area, which is in East Point. But that's why I want to get Mr. Theriak involved. He is an acknowledged statewide expert in this field. He may be able to find a path forward for all of us to give these good people some relief.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
How did they get it built?
It's built as a hotel. It's a commercial hotel for transient people. You know, it's like a Best Western or a Motel 6. It was never intended or authorized for residential use. There's been a conversion of the use from a commercial hotel to essentially a residential condominium, apparently. And that's where the issue lies.
Well, it's for my time, before I was here, you know.
Right, and it was never an issue for years because with the real estate bust, as Commissioner Sanders mentioned, that property, I don't think any of the units ever sold. They had some contracts, and then there was some litigation out there. There was apparently some allegations of SEC securities violations, and none of the contracts closed, is my recommendation or my recollection. And then it went into a foreclosure. So until Liberty Bank bought this at a foreclosure sale and started flipping these and apparently telling these people that they could, you know, occupy it, reside in it, whatever information the bank told them, that's when it has now become an issue because they've only recently been sold and recently been occupied. So that's why it's only coming to light now.
Well, I was going to say the R5, you know, and I haven't talked to Mark about this in detail because I honestly forgot all about the high hazard, but the R5 was not the highest density category you have. Now, I realize that part of the non-conforming issue is that it's not going to, it exceeds what R5 is, but the zoning itself, R5, may or may not be high hazard just because it's not the highest density we have. So there might be.
It's the location of the property. It's not the zoning category. It's the location of the property.
I understand, but again, the high hazard zone says you want to keep out the highest density uses.
Right.
And there might be some interpretation, and I'm not saying there is.
Well, that's part of the point of moving forward and let's get staff together and examine it. I mean, there's some other options. One of the options that I laid out is perhaps if there's some land across the street. If they could
We're
purchase
not
that
making
property.
them to buy more land.
Well, that would bring them within, it would make them not be a non-conforming use if they could get 5 acres across the street. Then they possibly could meet the density requirements and not be a non-conforming use on the point of buying more land. But there are options that need to be explored, avenues that we can go down. The biggest hurdle that I'm seeing right now is this comp plan prohibition of directing high-density residential use into the coastal high hazard area.
Mr. Schuler, all due respect, we really appreciate the time you've spent in meeting with us. And you were in the meeting where one of the suggestions at the end of that meeting was to go for the residential R5. And we've had 2 months since then. So the fact that you're bringing up something now, the morning of, that, why was this not discovered within the 2 months that we've had to prepare for this time? And we know as owners, we know what he's referring to. We understand the challenges in place and that we can't rebuild this building. But that's regardless. I don't think you could have any zoning possible in your county right now as it stands where we could rebuild this structure. It just does not exist. So to me, it's a moot point. I just don't see how stalling and meeting with more attorneys and giving another month even is going to get us to a better resolution than where we are today.
May it please the board.
Yes, sir.
I'm Bill Bass. I'm one of the owners. I'm a lawyer. Y'all forgive me for that. When I bought this place, I bought it because it was represented as a condo. I did my due diligence, which doesn't, from a legal perspective, include calling the county commissioner, Ms. Sanders. I was told that I could not reside in the unit. I think universally, and Mr. Schuler will disagree with this, residency and transient occupancy are two different things. I never intended to come down there and live, and I can tell you if you poll these people, you'll find out that's the same situation. But to be told, now, apparently Mr. Schuler just said that he had this conversation with the bank, that there would be no residency. Every real estate person I've talked to in this area has been told that we can't stay there even a night. Now, do you know what that means my property's worth? Mr. Preble said that. I had an offer on this place of $240,000, which would have been a neat little profit. My real estate person, Janlyn Dowden, who happens to be an honest person,
Yes, she is.
was told by a legal person in the county that I couldn't stay there for a night, and nor could the owner. That's the last offer I've had in that unit. It's been on the market for 2 years. C2 zoning clearly says you can't have residents there. That's a heck of a long way from saying you can't have transient occupancy and can't stay at your unit. Now, when we started this thing, all we asked for was the ability to stay in our units on a transient basis. And now we find ourselves here where the county's made the R5 recommendation. And we'll take it because that's what the recommendation was. But I'll be honest with you, in my assessment, and maybe I go too far, lawyers, as you know, talk too dad blame much, and I'm fixing to sit down. I am extremely pleased, although we've not had, one of the first things that happened, of course, is y'all were told not to talk to us. I'm extremely pleased with the community's response in talking to you as our intermediaries, and the willingness of the board to step forward and try to help us out. We are in a bind. It's easy to say when it's somebody else, let the buyer beware. There's no way checking that title, if you stop today, stop somebody on the street and said, check the title on that they would find that an owner couldn't stay there. It's a condo-tel. Not a hotel, a condo-tel. But your plans that you approved clearly show it to be a condo. Separate utilities. My unit's 3 bedrooms, 3.5 baths, and bigger than my house in Georgia. I don't want to live in it. That's no hotel room. I don't know what kind of politics went on before, how it got done. But I know that I'm in a place right now where I'd love to come down and spend 3 or 4 days, spend my money down here, spend my time down here. I love helping the school. I love contributing money for those old folks. We'll be involved. You won't have a call from the sheriff's department out there. We're not looking for residency. We're not looking for the ability to declare homestead exemption. When we came forward, we said, look, just acknowledge that we can stay there when we want to, and that's not a problem. We won't take mail there. We'll come and go. And that's what people do. At P&Z, I heard somebody say, well, that place is always full. Drive by there today. Drive by there Saturday. Stop and ask those people if they're renting from Canada or if they're owners that came down there to stay for a couple of days. I went for almost 2 years that I didn't spend a single night in that place because I was warned about it. Only after I bought it. So all I'm saying is this, it looks to me like I don't want it to get to the point where we got a commission that wants to help and the legal side that's looking for impediments. We need to have a clear way for us to enjoy our property. It's just that simple. Thank you.
Hello, Commissioners. My name's Glenn Woodsum. My wife and I are one of the owners down at the bungalows. And I guess I won't rehash some of the old history, except to say that C2 was probably never a good zoning for that property. And it caused problems for the county back then to the point, well, the developers chose a business model that had some success down in South Florida and tried to do a scaled down application here in Franklin County. And needless to say, it's proved to not be the greatest idea. Back at the time it was built, there was a problem within the county, and the county wrestled with even trying to define what a hotel was. And there finally did become a hotel-motel ordinance that was passed. But the bungalows continued to be somewhat idiosyncratic because having been permitted before the hotel-motel ordinance was passed, the county exempted the bungalows from that very hotel-motel ordinance because it didn't quite fit. During the time when the property was dormant, of course, there weren't any problems. But I fear that as long as the property remains C2, that there are going to be issues for both owners and county, for everybody. And that a rezoning is probably the simplest solution for all parties. And just one other thing for the record. The declaration of condominium for the bungalows, which my wife and I read before we signed our documents, clearly states that owners and their guests can go down there and occupy with no limitations on time. And this was filed with Franklin County in 2008. So it wasn't just Liberty that said you could stay there. It was the people whoever did the declaration of condominium for the bungalows. There was no restriction on time. And this was done back in 2008. So it dates back a ways. Anyway, thanks for your time. And I hope you do grant us a public hearing. I think it's deserved. Thanks.
Thank you. Any more?
One last time.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Ralph Chambers. I own down here. I've looked for a place like this for 20 years. I've vacationed in St. George for 20 years. And I finally found one. I'm 75 years old. My wife is 73 years old. She has a place in Tallahassee. I have a place in Dayton that I've owned for 30 years. We don't live here. We do vacation here, we spend time here. It's really good for us. The only thing I want If something happens to me, my wife will move back to Tallahassee because she can't afford this place on her own. I want it to be real simple for her to sell the place, you know, take the money, go back to Tallahassee with her kids. And for me to spend a few nights down here every now and then. That's all I want. Thank you for your time.
All right, Miss Cheryl, your call.
This is my call, huh? Well, Alan, I mean, you're not planner anymore, but you were here back during the time we did this designation, this zoning category. Do you agree with what Michael Schuler says?
Well, I do agree the record doesn't reflect that the people ever made any application or any representation what the owners of the property was going to do. I mean, it was built as a condo hotel. I remember some discussions. There were local people who were proposing to build this thing, and it was going to be sold off and used in a commercial way, but there was no discussion at the time, that I remember either, of what the owners could do with them. It was after this was permitted that we then had all these concerns about other ones coming up. And so then we started to develop regulations, and we did adopt an ordinance, which I can't quote you today because it's been a number of years, but put restrictions on how the owners worked. I mean, Mr. Schuler, I do have, I do understand the distinction between residence and occupancy. And it seems a little harsh not to have any use of it at all. I do have some sympathy with it. That's why Mark and I talked about what can we do to allow that residential use, because I also recognize that this day and age, there's very little commercial use there. I mean, no one's going to want to rent those units. There's not a really waterfront there to use. There's not adequate parking for boats and trailers and all that kind of stuff there. So whoever said it is right. It was a bad business model, moved up here and put in the wrong place, and now we have a building that had been empty since it got built. Now we have owners, and if we don't allow some continued maintenance of that building, it will become an eyesore and a problem for the other neighbors living around it. I mean, it's a terrible dilemma that we're all into. So I would love to find a solution for it also, because I think if we let it sit and the owners walk away, even if they can afford to, it doesn't remove the building from the landscape. It's still there, and something's got to be dealt with the building.
Last I heard you say that they built it, then afterwards y'all come up with a solution where no more would get built. So
Yes.
when they built them, they hadn't been put on to after it.
Right. I mean, the main restrictions about use and occupancy were developed after this got started. Now, I'm saying this without having fully looked at the record, but I believe that's what it is. I know this is the first building, no, I shouldn't say, I'm not sure this is the first building permitted, but it certainly was the first building completed. And really the only building completed on the south side of 98. There was a whole series, at one point, I can't quote the numbers, but I think we had about 150 or 250 condo hotel units being proposed in the county coming in a big rush, and the community was concerned, was alarmed that we were going to be overrun with these things because they were popping up in South Florida, and now they were running up here. And so the board, the P&Z, the staff, we all took steps to try and control this. We didn't know what a hotel room was because it was as wide the hotel industry was changing at the same time we were trying to get our handle on it. So it was a very moving target at the time trying to figure out what to do with this thing. And unfortunately, this got built, and the questions that were asked then are not the questions that are being asked now. And we just had this gap.
And this is the only one we have.
This is the only one we have on South Side 98.
Two zones.
We have two others that have pilings in the ground that have never gone beyond that, but this is the only one that ever got finished.
Well,
We got to do something to help them.
well,
Well, what they saying? You saying no more can be built, right? I mean,
Well, I doubt anybody's going to make an investment in this thing. I can't promise you what, I mean,
promise you no more.
let me put it this way, two others that have piles in the ground, no one has ever bothered to buy them, trying to finish them, so the commercial interest is.
well,
Was that one that was built in Lanark? They was going to
Yes.
start right there on the
That's
right? Okay.
the one thing that bothers me about this whole thing is, it's not a good situation any way around. It's not. But the thing about it is, I know somewhere that there is a solution there that will give them 100% of the value of their property. That's what I'm looking at. I don't want to do something and put it in another zoning category that you're gonna lose value on your property, worse than what Greg is talking about. He's losing now, $23,000 a year, you know, that's what, and are we gonna solve this? Not today, but we're gonna solve it, because I don't wanna ever have this happening again.
I mean, the C5, or the R5 doesn't, I mean, I agree, it doesn't solve that problem. If they go to that, they're in a losing situation now as far as rebuilding. The R5, they'll still be in a losing situation. To be honest, I don't think we can solve that.
Well, and like Attorney Schuler said, you know, well, one of the things is they could go and get get the property on the other side of the road, just a scenario, and make it right, but you can't make it right. We want them to be whole. We want them to be whole in their property, and that's the way it is. I'm like Mr. Rick and the rest of it, but at the same time, we've got an issue here that there was grave concerns with the planning and zoning. Now, we haven't even looked at what the planning and zoning says. Only thing I heard was one of them said buyer beware type thing. But what was the issues, the real issues, Mike? You were there.
You know, the chairman of P&Z, you guys helped me out here. You talked about the precedents being set, some odd precedents
That
being
was
see
the
that.
only thing, that was the
I don't
only
see
negative
this
thing they
thing.
had, was that they did not want to set a precedence to allow multifamily residential on the water. But we're not asking to build something like that on the water, we're already there, so I don't know how that would set a precedent.
It was brought up too that
Yeah.
even if they did that it wouldn't set a precedent because nobody else can do what we've done.
Right.
If it gets tore down.
It didn't really make
I mean, if it
sense.
gets tore down, ain't nobody gonna build back anyway.
No,
All of them-
exactly.
It's just gonna be a big pile of crap.
That we'll try to sell for scrap metal, yeah, exactly.
I
What
mean, it's just
about,
gonna be all piled up in the park, and one goes down, all of them's
We
going.
got insurance to clean it up.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, but one
clean
goes
it up,
down, Miss Betsy, all going down, I mean, they're not gonna survive.
We all understand.
I've been here through the hurricanes, when one goes down, they're all going.
They're all gonna go down.
I've been here for a long time riding them.
But
We have
then-
good
What
insurance.
about-
But then, if, say, the scenario is, and it happens that you do that, we want y'all to be able to have 100% rebuild. You see what I'm saying? Because y'all got a lot of money stuck in there.
We're never gonna be able to have 100% rebuild, though. We just won't.
We will take our insurance money, divide it
Go.
up and leave after we.
Exactly.
That's your.
That really is the truth.
Literally
If
the
they
only
got
option we
additional
have,
property,
because
they
we can
could.
only, Mr. Schuler will tell you, we've only got 1.8 acres, and I think the maximum we could put on there, Alan, you may.
7 units is what we could build.
6 or 7 units.
But that was the reason for the suggestion of acquiring additional property, that then they would not be a non-conforming use, and if there was that catastrophic, they would be able to.
So you would let us
If they bought
rebuild that
across-
building?
If they bought 5 acres across the street,
But we'll just, that's
I'm just
my,
saying, if they bought 5 acres across the street, they could build back.
assuming we can get past this high hazard
Right,
prohibition,
they
yes.
could build back their
If we can
units
get
across
past
the
this
street.
initial hurdle, then there are other options that we can explore. But that's the reason I'm suggesting, let's table this, let me get with Mr. Theriak, talk to him and explore the options. We can, certainly include, Mr. Anderson, Jeremy Anderson, Mr. Anderson into that conversation, and then come back with the board with a recommendation from your attorneys and lay out what the options are. Hopefully, we can find a path forward to help these people. I mean, it's very clear to me what the board's instructions are. I mean, there's-
Yeah, we're gonna
there's
find something.
No
Yeah.
question.
And part of the problem with buying additional land is, we've already
No, I
invested
was
so
just
much
saying
in
that
it,
was
it would be
just
very
something I
difficult
heard.
for us to buy 5 more
That was
acres.
something I heard, I mean. I
Correct.
listened
Yeah,
to
but,
that.
I
No,
mean,
I
that's
agree.
from the
Yeah,
option.
But it's a very difficult situation that may have a difficult solution. I don't know what the solution is. right now.
We're gonna find
let
it.
me see. Can I
Yes,
say
sir.
something? You know, I believe in property rights. And this sticky situation, but if I buy a piece of property, I want to sleep in it too. You know,
That's what I said. I don't know if I can tell me I can't sleep where I'm at.
Do you all agree that we need to table this issue and let Michael Schuler get with the attorney, I guess Mr. Anderson or whoever? Y'all don't want us to
But they
table
wanna
it?
drag it out. They want it, something done fast. They don't wanna go into
Yeah,
6 or
well-
7, 8 more months.
Well,
They want something-
I've given them the date of a month from today.
May I speak?
Yes, sir.
If I left you, we don't,
And you can earn your money.
if that,
Well, how about, so we give them a little bit of certainty, maybe if we, maybe table it out for maybe one cycle instead of a month, do it in 60 days. That'll give Schuler time to get with Theriak, I can get with Schuler, we can come up with a proposal, and then,
I want it quicker than that.
Too
I
long?
want
30
it
days?
quicker than that. That's why, y'all didn't hear me, I said a month from today, which
Okay.
is our second meeting of the month. This board takes up planning and zoning issues. So what's gonna happen is, I'm gonna tell you, and I will tell you, and Michael knows I'll tell you, a month from today, if he doesn't come up here and satisfy me and this board and you, then I will take that tabled motion back up and do the R5.
Basically, we're talking about the 20th.
You fixing to have
of
to
next
earn your
month.
money
I'm telling
fast.
you, I'm telling you.
well,
I'm
you have
telling
my
y'all.
word, I'll call him every day.
He knows. I mean, Michael should have known. I don't, y'all see me, I don't bite no bones. I tell you the truth.
We're gonna help y'all.
I believe there's a solution in this, and I am sorry that y'all have a problem. I'm sorry y'all made a bad investment. But, and I hope it did, you know, I'm sorry. And I know some of y'all will recoup your losses in the sales that, you know, some of the people have and all. But at the same time, I think it's best for us, unless you got something else, Mr. Anderson.
That's it.
I'm gonna go ahead, I think he wants to say something.
Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Torrey Wingate. I'm one of the outsiders. I live up in South Georgia, and
That's all right.
we love the place down here. If there's one thing that has given me some confidence this morning, is seeing the compassion that you county commissioners have experienced this morning. Not just with this topic or agenda item, but the ones preceding it. I'm highly impressed. I've been to other, even my own county commission meetings, and the level of the people and the support for your constituents is tremendous here.
I
Thank
know
you.
how you feel. I got $21.82. I don't wanna lose it.
Anyway,
Can I make one comment?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, throughout all this discussion, and I understand where the people's at, but the people have to understand that we as a board also have to look at the county side. The county side is everybody that lives here. And from my perspective, helping you if we can, putting this whole county at liability is a whole nother ballgame. That's what the attorney is trying to explain and demonstrate, that if we can help you, we're gonna help you. But we cannot break the bank of this whole county trying to help you. We're going against our comp plan, as he's stating, if we put this high density and rezone this thing and put it into the high hazard area. That concerns me. I understand where you're at. I know when he was dealing with the gentleman, there was numerous emails went out. He directed those to each board member every time he was dealing with the bank or whoever was trying to, and telling them that this was not residential. They proceeded forward anyway, and I understand y'all know that, and you've basically been had. We're gonna try to help you, but we cannot put this whole county at liability if you sell to another owner and they don't understand like you understand where I'm coming from? If you sell and go and they don't understand this meeting that's happening here today and everything that's going on here today, then they come back and want to sue the county because we've done something and put them in a high hazard area, and it gets blown down, as we all know might happen, everybody here, but future owners may not know. So we got to look at protecting the county from future lawsuits and these other things, as well as trying to help you. So I don't see the attorney as trying to create delay tactics, as some has been said. I don't see it that way. I see it as a way, is that his job to protect the community, to protect the county, to protect the board, and to protect the people of the county. So if we can work together and make it work, fine. But we gotta do it the right way. And if he recommends a certain way, that's the way I'm gonna go, because I'm elected to represent the people. And you are the people also. But, you know, we gotta make it work for everybody. It can't just be a one-sided deal, because basically the county didn't create this, but the county is now being asked to try to fix it. And we will. But I just want everybody here to know where I stand as commissioner, and I've sat here and listened to everybody else, but the bottom line is we gotta protect the county. If there's a way we can do it, and do it right, where it's all legal, where to hold it in court, so if we're sued in the future, that we've done the right thing and done it the right way, then so be it. But, you know, we do have the community to look after as well as trying to look after your interests too. So, and, you know, I'm willing to work towards that goal, but, I think she's got a valid point when you talk about the high hazard area and what's in our comp plan. Are we gonna change our comp plan to make it not be a non-conforming use? I don't know what the solution's gonna be, but we have to make sure that we look at it from the perspective of the people that put us up here on this board. I was on the planning and zoning board when all this was going on with the condo hotels and all, long before I was elected. So I'm aware of zoning codes and zoning regulations and why they were being developed and all the pressure that was being put on the county when all these different scenarios were coming here, and we were just a quaint community that had no idea of all this zoning stuff that was going on. So I was a part of the planning and zoning board when all these different applications were being made and the different theories and the different things that we've never heard of in this county. And it was a tumultuous time for us to deal with, not having the education, not having the experience of dealing with some of the things that other communities around the country have already dealt with. So I do understand the importance of where you're at, the money you've invested, and basically, in my opinion, you were taken down the rocky road and dropped off and not revealed the true content of what the attorney was trying to relate to the individuals that were selling you these lots and telling them the whole time there was no residential use. And all those emails that he put out there were emailed to each one of the board members also. So, you know, hopefully we can work to a solution, but we got to make sure it's done right. We got to protect the county as well as trying to protect your investment.
Mr. Chairman, I had a question for Commissioner Sanders. Is your motion to table with a time?
Table the time limit for 30 days.
I hadn't said it yet.
Well, you said it there, let me get fixed.
I'm fixing to make a motion. My motion is to table the issue and to direct staff, I'm gonna say staff, that includes Michael Marone and Mark Currington and Michael Schuler to meet with Mr. Anderson from the property owners and to get back with us with a recommendation to what to do with the situation by the second meeting in September, no later. And then that way we can move on and go ahead. And I think that you'll be able to contact and get with Mr. Theriak and bring Mr. Theriak into it. And also to hire Mr. Theriak in that capacity too to help out because he is a good land development attorney. And that's my motion.
I'll second it.
Have a motion second on the floor, all in favor?
Aye.
Oh,
Mr. Chairman.
go ahead, Mr. Noah.
Looking, is it any way, is there a grandfather clause in there?
Commissioner Lockley, I don't believe so. I mean, what's on the books is the development application request that was submitted to you back in 2005 by the original developers. There's the records of the meetings that occurred between planning and zoning on that application and the record of the meeting between the county commission and the developer and what they asked for, what they didn't ask for. That is what has been requested by the original developer and approved by you. So there's really no grandfathering issue here that we're looking at this point in time. What we're trying to find, if we can, is a new path forward that balances, if we can, the request of these current owners with the county's interest in not violating your comp plan and not taking a action which is going to present you with an undue risk of litigation now or in the future. Those are the issues we're going to look for to make sure that we can be consistent with your comp plan and your land development code, and also bearing in mind the risk management of those potential lawsuits that could come about under the Burt Harris Act or a regulatory taking issue if we in fact take action to create a non-conforming use of this property. I mean, there's land use issues, there's litigation issues, and you know, in defense of staff, I mean, they were looking at this from a purely planning standpoint. I don't think that they certainly didn't consult with me before they went forward and made this recommendation. When I found out about it is when I became concerned about the potential litigation risk to the county. But all that being said, you know, all the lawyer talk, the reality is, you know, I want to help these people just as much as the board does, and I think your directions to me are very clear. If we can find a path forward, we'll do so, and I'll come back with a second meeting in September.
Thank you.
And look into the grandfather. I mean, look a little bit more into the grandfather.
Well, I was reading, I was asking, y'all said that they was built and later down the road, y'all passed
Well, that's because
the rule, I mean,
That's-
That- That's not really the way that happened. What
That's the reason I was asking, because if y'all build them then later done
Yeah,
the.
the occupation and the resident, you know, that issue just was never on the table. No one ever came to the county and said, hey, this is commercial property, but we want these unit owners to be able to occupy them or reside in. That discussion happened far after, I believe.
Well, I know it was a mess back then. The money was going everywhere. Franklin County never seen so much money in their life. People building and running, going. It was just a land boom,
Just-
money going everywhere.
Just to let y'all know, and then we're gonna take a vote because we need to move
Yeah.
on. Just to let y'all know, what it was, after that, when Hurricane Dennis came through and the land boom busted, they came back to the board. They had no vested right to it at that time because it had already passed, right?
Okay.
Am I right? I think so. I think that's about what happened.
Well, I got
But
a
anyway, you got a
motion second on the floor. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries.